Welcome to Limitless Success TV, where we transform dreams into action and ambition into results. If you've ever found yourself caught in the endless loop of procrastination, held back by hesitation, or weighed down by the heavy burden of self-doubt, then you are exactly where you need to be. In today's video, we're going to break down 7 powerful ways to eliminate excuses once and for all and finally step into a life that's driven by action, not inaction. We'll explore the mindset shifts, habits, and strategies that will unlock your potential and help you build the life of success and freedom you've always dreamed about. I get it. I've been there. There were times in my life when the voice of doubt was louder than the voice of reason. When hesitation ruled my every decision, and when fear of failure kept me from taking bold steps. It felt like I was stuck in quicksand, where the more I struggled, the deeper I sank. I know what it feels like to want more out of life but feel paralyzed by the weight of uncertainty. But what I've learned over the years, through my own journey and by observing the habits of those who have built real, lasting success, is this: excuses are nothing more than mental chains. These chains may look harmless, even comforting at times, but they hold you in place, keeping you from achieving your full potential. The truth is, every single one of us is capable of more than we think. But we allow excuses to limit us. Now, I'm not here to judge you for the excuses you've made in the past. We've all been guilty of this at one point or another. But I want to challenge you today to take a different path, one where action is your driving force and excuses are nothing more than distant memories. If you want to build wealth, success, and true freedom, you must learn how to break free from these chains, and trust me, it's possible. It's time to confront the stories we tell ourselves about why we can't take action, why we put things off, or why we think success is reserved for someone else. I want to help you understand that these stories are not your truth. They're simply the lies we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. Comfort, however, is the enemy of growth. The truth is, success is not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about embracing imperfection, taking that first step despite the fear, and trusting the process even when the road is unclear. Throughout this video, I'm going to walk you through 7 concrete ways you can eliminate the excuses that have held you back and replace them with actionable, goal-oriented steps that will push you closer to your dreams. And I want you to stay with me, because the power of this transformation comes when you understand that you are in control. Success doesn't happen by accident, and it certainly doesn't happen when we make excuses. It happens when we take ownership of our actions, our decisions, and our future. Here's the thing. We often find ourselves waiting for a moment of inspiration, a perfect opportunity, or some kind of external validation before we take the plunge. But, my friend, the world doesn't work that way. Opportunity doesn't knock on the door when you're sitting still. Success is attracted to those who take action, who make decisions even when they don't feel ready, and who are willing to push through discomfort to achieve greatness. I've had my fair share of moments where I questioned whether I was on the right path. The fear of failure, the pressure to succeed, and the constant comparison to others almost paralyzed me. But one thing kept me going: the realization that every action, no matter how small, takes you closer to your goal. And every time I took a step forward, I felt more in control of my life and my destiny. There was a time when I kept telling myself, I'll start tomorrow. I need more time to prepare. I need more information. Does that sound familiar to you? It's a trap. We often think we need to have everything figured out before we begin. But in reality, the best way to learn is by doing. Success isn't a straight line. It's a series of trial and error. And that's perfectly okay. In fact, it's necessary. The more you take action, the more you'll learn, and the more equipped you'll be to make smarter decisions moving forward. Now, I want to ask you something. What's stopping you right now from taking that first step? Is it fear? Is it doubt? Or is it simply the comfort of staying where you are, even though you know deep down that you're capable of so much more? I want you to take a moment and think about that. Because the truth is, the only thing standing between where you are now and where you want to be is your ability to act. In this video, I'm going to share with you 7 ways to eliminate excuses and replace them with decisive action that will move you closer to your goals every single day. This isn't about quick fixes or temporary motivation. It's about creating lasting change in how you think, how you act, and ultimately, how you create success. So, if you're ready to stop making excuses and start taking action, I want you to stick with me until the end. Because the strategies I'm about to share will not only change how you approach success, but they'll also redefine the way you live your life. You see, success is not reserved for the lucky few. It's for those who are willing to put in the work, who are willing to embrace discomfort, and who are willing to take full responsibility for their lives. And the sooner you take that responsibility, the sooner you'll start seeing real progress. It's time to stop making excuses and start living the life you've always dreamed about. Stay with me, because I'm about to share the blueprint that will help you unlock your full potential. Step by step, are you ready to break free from the chains of excuses? Let's dive in and start transforming your future today. 1. Recognizing and rejecting excuses. The first step on the road to success is recognizing something that many of us tend to overlook. Excuses are not just harmless words. They are barriers, mental obstacles that quietly stand between us and our potential. Every excuse we make is like a little wall we build around ourselves, convincing us to wait for a better time, a more perfect opportunity, or just a bit more clarity before we take action. But in reality, those walls never disappear. They only grow taller, making it harder to break through with each passing day. I remember vividly a time early in my career when I hesitated to launch my first product. It wasn't a huge, complicated project, but the idea of putting something out into the world, something that was mine, was terrifying. I kept telling myself, just one more revision, just a little more feedback from someone. The problem? That hesitation turned into months of inaction. Every day, I found a new excuse. I told myself that I wasn't ready yet, that it wasn't perfect enough. And the longer I waited, the more my confidence shrunk, and the more doubts crept in. But here's the truth that I want to share with you. That perfection I was waiting for? It never came. It wasn't until I reached a breaking point, until I made the decision to take action. Even if the product wasn't 100% perfect, that things began to change. The moment I took the first step, flaws and all, the path to success became clear. I learned something invaluable. You don't have to wait for perfection. In fact, waiting for perfection is just another excuse to avoid taking action. I'm not saying that you should throw caution to the wind and put out subpar work. What I'm saying is this: don't let the fear of imperfection stop you from starting. Action leads to learning, and learning leads to improvement. If I had waited for everything to be perfect, I might still be stuck in the same spot, holding on to a product that was never released. And that's the trap that many of us fall into, whether we're talking about launching a business, writing a book, or starting a YouTube channel. The excuses we make about needing more time, more knowledge, or more experience are all just ways to avoid taking that first step. In reality, it's through the process of doing that you get better. You learn more by acting than by waiting. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll realize that your excuses are just stories you've been telling yourself to stay in your comfort zone. Comfort zones are killers. They trick you into thinking that if you just stay where you are, everything will be okay. But the truth is, nothing ever changes if you don't make a move. I've seen this play out countless times in the lives of successful people. Take Elon Musk, for example. Here's a man who started with nothing but a vision and a willingness to take massive action. He didn't wait for the perfect car, the perfect battery, or the perfect infrastructure to build Tesla or launch SpaceX. Instead, he took the first step, which was often the most uncomfortable and risky one. He didn't wait for the world to give him permission. He went ahead and started creating. Now, let's talk about this idea of waiting for the right time. When I was hesitant to take action, I kept telling myself that I needed to wait for the market to be ready, for the right conditions to fall into place. But guess what? The right time never comes, and if it does, it comes after you've taken the first step. Success doesn't wait for the perfect circumstances. It rewards those who make their own opportunities, who create their own luck by taking action. Think about it. How many people have had a great idea, only to see it later executed by someone else? It's because that other person took action, imperfect, messy, and uncertain action, but action nonetheless. Every successful entrepreneur, author, or creator you admire has one thing in common. They decided to stop making excuses and took the first step. I'll share another example with you. There's a story of a well-known YouTuber, Casey Neistat, who built a massive following and created an incredible brand for himself. When he started, he didn't have the best equipment, the biggest budget, or the most polished content. But he had something more important: the willingness to act. He didn't wait for the perfect lighting, the perfect camera, or the perfect script. He just started creating. And over time, he learned and adapted. His channel grew because he took action, day in and day out, and never allowed excuses to hold him back. It's the same for all of us. Success doesn't come to those who wait, it comes to those who act. Taking action is what separates those who dream from those who do. And the sooner you realize that excuses are just barriers to your success, the sooner you'll begin to break free from their grip. Let's be real, we all make excuses. I still do it sometimes. But the key is recognizing it for what it is, a self-imposed barrier. And when you recognize that, you can begin to reject it. Rejection of excuses is not about beating yourself up or being hard on yourself. It's about realizing that every excuse is just a way for your mind to hold you back, to keep you in your comfort zone. Once you see that for what it is, you can stop making excuses and start taking bold, decisive action toward your goals. The key takeaway here is that the path to success is not lined with perfect conditions or flawless execution. It's paved by people who took action in spite of their fears, their doubts, and their imperfections. So, the next time you find yourself making an excuse, whether it's about starting a business, writing that book, or pursuing any of your big dreams, remember, you don't need permission. You don't need to wait for the stars to align. All you need to do is take the first step, and everything else will start falling into place. I challenge you today to make a decision. Reject the excuses that have been holding you back. Take the first step, even if it's not perfect, and watch how your life begins to change. The moment you decide to act, to reject your excuses, that's when the real journey begins. 2. Taking full responsibility for your life. Taking full responsibility for your life is one of the most transformative shifts you can make if you want to achieve success and create wealth. It's easy to point fingers at external circumstances, other people, or even luck when things aren't going your way. But here's the truth. When you choose to blame others or external forces, you relinquish your power. Excuses, no matter how convincing they sound, are nothing but a shield, a way to protect ourselves from the harsh reality that we, and only we, are responsible for the decisions we make and the outcomes that follow. I'll be honest, there was a time in my own journey when I fell into the trap of blaming outside factors for my setbacks. I thought that if only I had more resources, better timing, or a stronger network, I'd be more successful. But when I stopped looking outward and started looking inward, I realized that the root of my struggles wasn't external, it was how I was choosing to react to those challenges. The moment I took full responsibility for my actions, both my successes and failures, that's when everything began to change. Taking responsibility is not about self-blame or guilt. It's about owning your decisions, regardless of whether they led to success or failure. It's about accepting that the outcomes in your life are the result of the choices you've made, and that you have the power to change your future by making different choices today. This mindset gives you control. When you take full responsibility, you take back your power. You stop being a passive observer of your own life and become the active creator of your destiny. Let's take a look at Elon Musk, one of the most influential entrepreneurs of our time. Here's a man who could have blamed anyone or anything for his failures. Tesla faced financial difficulties early on. SpaceX rockets exploded, and he received criticism from many corners of the media and the public. Yet, what sets Musk apart from many others is that he never shifted the blame. He didn't blame investors for pulling out of Tesla when things were tough. Nor did he blame his engineers for the failed rocket launches. Instead, he took full responsibility. He acknowledged his mistakes, learned from them, and adapted his approach. What's even more impressive is that Musk's ability to pivot and adapt comes from a mindset of responsibility. He understands that every decision he makes, every risk he takes, is his own. If something goes wrong, he doesn't spend time pointing fingers. He doesn't waste energy on excuses. Instead, he focuses on what he can do to fix it and what lessons he can learn from the experience. This mindset of owning your decisions, whether they lead to success or failure, is what allows you to pivot, grow, and ultimately, achieve your goals. Another example that comes to mind is Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. She started her business with just $5 and a great idea. But it wasn't smooth sailing at first. She faced rejection after rejection from potential investors and struggled to get her product into stores. However, rather than blaming her lack of resources or the industry's skepticism about her idea, she took full responsibility for her path. She didn't wait for someone else to give her the green light. She kept moving forward, tweaking her product, refining her pitch, and learning from every setback. Today, Spanx is a global brand worth billions. The point here is that when you take full responsibility for your life, you stop playing the victim. You stop waiting for the perfect circumstances or the ideal situation to act. You realize that you are the one in control of your future. It doesn't matter where you start, what challenges you face, or how many mistakes you make along the way. What matters is that you own your decisions and take the necessary actions to keep moving forward. Think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you blamed external factors for not achieving your goals? It's so easy to point fingers at the economy, your job, your lack of connections, or even your upbringing. I've been there. But once I shifted my perspective and took full responsibility for everything in my life, good and bad, I stopped feeling like I was at the mercy of external forces. I realized that I controlled my fate. For example, in the early stages of building my own business, I faced numerous setbacks, financial challenges, tough competitors, moments of self-doubt, but I never used those as excuses. Instead, I looked at each challenge as an opportunity to learn and improve. What can I do differently? How can I overcome this? I didn't just wait for things to get better on their own. I made a conscious decision to take responsibility for what happened, adjust my strategy, and keep pushing forward. Over time, this attitude led me to solutions and success that I wouldn't have found had I been stuck in the victim mindset. Taking full responsibility isn't just about owning your mistakes, it's about owning your successes too. Too many people fall into the trap of thinking that their wins are due to luck or the help of others. The truth is, when you achieve something, you should be proud and take credit for it. Recognizing your role in your own success builds confidence and reinforces the belief that you are the creator of your reality. But the flip side is just as important. When things don't go as planned, don't shy away from acknowledging your role in that as well. This is where most people get stuck. They get comfortable making excuses because it's easier to blame someone else than to confront the uncomfortable truth that they could have done things differently. It's painful to admit mistakes, but doing so is what accelerates growth. When you take responsibility, you shift from being reactive to proactive. You no longer wait for life to happen to you. Instead, you make life happen for you. One of the most empowering things about taking responsibility is that it gives you the freedom to change your trajectory. When you own your decisions, you unlock the power to make new choices. You realize that each decision, big or small, shapes your future, and that you have the ability to redirect your path at any moment. There's immense freedom in that. So, here's my challenge for you. Start today by taking full responsibility for every area of your life. Look at your current situation and ask yourself, how did I get here? Whether it's good or bad, take ownership of it, and then ask, what decisions can I make today that will move me forward? The answers to those questions will give you a roadmap to success. Remember, success is not about waiting for the stars to align. It's about taking responsibility for the decisions you make, learning from every experience, and constantly evolving. When you do that, you'll realize that you have the power to change your life at any moment. And that power is in your hands, right now. By embracing responsibility, you are not just building a foundation for wealth, but also for a life of fulfillment and purpose. The more you own your journey, the more you will find that nothing can stop you. 3. Building the habit of action. Building the habit of action is arguably one of the most crucial steps toward creating lasting success. You see, every decision we make is an opportunity to take action. And it doesn't matter how small the action may seem. In fact, those seemingly insignificant actions, when compounded over time, create incredible momentum that propels us toward our goals. It's like building a snowball. You start with a tiny bit of snow. But as it rolls, it grows and picks up speed, gathering more snow as it moves. Over time, that small snowball turns into a massive force. I remember the early days of my entrepreneurial journey. I was constantly waiting for the perfect moment, the time when I would have all the resources I needed, all the knowledge, all the perfect circumstances. I kept telling myself that I'd take action once I had everything lined up just right. The problem with that thinking, though, is that it paralyzes you. It's an excuse that keeps you stuck in the same place, going in circles, waiting for something that will never come. Perfect conditions don't exist. They're a myth. One of my mentors once shared a powerful piece of advice that changed everything for me. He said, "Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can." Those simple words became my mantra. When I first heard them, I didn't fully grasp how profound they were. I thought, how can I possibly move forward when I don't have everything I need? But the truth is, you don't need everything. You only need to take that first step. Even if it's small, even if you feel uncertain, even if you think you're not ready. Think about it. Every single decision you make is an opportunity to act. It doesn't matter if it's something as simple as writing an email, making a phone call, or researching a new idea. These actions may seem small on their own, but when you consistently take action, they add up. Over time, you build momentum that carries you toward your goals. It's like planting seeds. If you plant one seed and water it every day, eventually you'll have a tree. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's that consistent effort, no matter how small, that yields massive results. I remember when I first started building my business. I didn't have all the tools or the expertise that I thought I needed. But I didn't wait for everything to fall into place. I started with what I had and took the first step. I created a website. I wrote my first blog post. I made my first sale. And while each of those actions seemed small at the time, they laid the foundation for everything that came after. The key here is consistency. Taking action every day, even in small ways, sets up a pattern of behavior that keeps you moving forward. It's like creating a habit. And when something becomes a habit, it becomes automatic. It no longer requires as much effort to take action, and the momentum builds itself. One of the biggest misconceptions people have is that you need to have everything figured out before you take action. The reality is that you'll never have everything figured out. Things change, obstacles arise, and new challenges come up that you couldn't have anticipated. But that's okay. The important thing is to start, to act, and to keep going. The more you act, the more you learn, the more you adjust, and the more successful you become. It's a cycle that feeds itself. The more you do, the more confidence you build. The more confidence you build, the more action you take. Let me give you an example. Think about the process of writing a book. Many people dream of writing a book, but most of them never get started because they feel overwhelmed. They think they need to have a perfect outline, the ideal writing space, and an endless amount of time. But the truth is, writing a book is just a series of small actions, writing a page, then another, then another. If you write just 500 words a day, at the end of a month, you'll have 15,000 words. In 2 months, that's a full manuscript. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about taking that first step, however small, and continuing to move forward. In fact, I've had several friends who have written books by simply following this principle. One of them, a fellow entrepreneur, had always dreamed of writing a book but never felt like he had the time or resources to do it. But once he committed to writing 500 words a day, every day, he finished his book in just a few months. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but by taking consistent action, he moved from dreaming about it to actually doing it. And that's the difference between those who achieve success and those who don't. It's not about waiting for the right conditions, it's about making the conditions right through consistent action. And let's not forget about the power of building momentum. When you take consistent action, you build momentum, and momentum is one of the most powerful forces for success. Once you start moving, it becomes easier to keep moving. The hardest part is always the beginning. But once you take that first step, the next one is easier. And the next one after that even easier. The more you act, the more you train yourself to act without overthinking. Eventually, your habit of action becomes second nature. This is why the habit of action is so important. It becomes a feedback loop. Action leads to results, and results lead to more action. The more you act, the more results you get. The more results you get, the more confident you become. And that confidence fuels even more action. You become unstoppable. It's like a snowball effect. Once it starts rolling, it gains speed and size without much additional effort. But, let's be clear, action doesn't mean rushing into things without a plan. It's not about mindlessly moving from task to task. It's about being intentional with your actions. Each decision you make should align with your goals. But even with that intention, you don't need to have everything mapped out perfectly before you start. You just need to take the next step, however small, and keep building momentum. So, let me ask you, What's one small action you can take today that will move you closer to your goal? It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be a step in the right direction. Maybe it's making that phone call, sending that email, or writing down your goals for the week. No matter what it is, commit to taking action, even if it's small, and watch how it starts to compound over time. By making action a habit, you'll unlock your true potential. You'll start seeing results you never thought possible. And most importantly, you'll build the momentum that will carry you through even the toughest of times. So, get started today, because every small action you take is one step closer to creating the life you want. 4. Cultivating self-discipline. Cultivating self-discipline is one of the most crucial habits you can develop if you're serious about building wealth and achieving your long-term goals. But here's the thing. Discipline is not about rigid rules or restrictive routines. It's not about depriving yourself or forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. Rather, discipline is about understanding the immense value of every moment and aligning your daily actions with your larger vision for success. It's about making sure that the choices you make each day bring you closer to your goals, rather than pushing you further away. When we think of discipline, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking it's something harsh or restrictive. We imagine strict schedules, limited freedoms, and constantly denying ourselves the things we want. But in reality, discipline is about freedom from distractions, freedom from procrastination, and freedom to focus on what truly matters. The discipline to prioritize your time, energy, and focus is what will ultimately allow you to live life on your own terms, rather than being at the mercy of external circumstances. Let's look at one of the most successful people on the planet, Oprah Winfrey. Oprah is known not only for her incredible career achievements but also for her disciplined daily routine. If you were to observe her day, you'd notice that it's packed with structure. She wakes up early, meditates, exercises, and follows a highly structured schedule. Now, this isn't about her following rigid rules or doing things just for the sake of doing them. It's about her recognizing the immense value of each moment and aligning her daily actions with her larger goals. Her discipline is not about restrictions but about focus, harnessing the power of focus to ensure that everything she does is in service of her broader vision. What's powerful about Oprah's approach is that she doesn't let excuses dictate her schedule. She doesn't let the whims of the day, the distractions, or the constant pull of the world around her dictate how she spends her time. Instead, she makes her schedule work for her, not the other way around. She knows that every hour, every minute, every second is an opportunity to either move closer to her goals or stay stuck in a cycle of distraction and inaction. And she chooses to make every moment count. This is the essence of self-discipline. It's about being intentional with your time and making sure that your actions are always moving you toward your bigger vision. Now, let's dive a little deeper into how you can cultivate this type of self-discipline in your own life. It begins with clarity of vision. When you know exactly what you want to achieve, it becomes much easier to align your actions with your larger goals. Take a moment to think about your long-term vision. What do you want your life to look like in 5, 10, or 20 years? Once you have that vision, break it down into actionable steps. Each day, ask yourself, what can I do today to bring me closer to that vision? It might seem like small steps at first, but remember, small consistent actions lead to big results over time. For example, when I first started working toward building my own business, I had a vision of becoming financially independent and helping others do the same. At first, it felt like a distant dream, but I knew that the only way to turn that vision into a reality was through daily, disciplined action. So, I started by waking up an hour earlier each day to focus on my business. I didn't overwhelm myself with huge tasks right away. Instead, I focused on small, manageable actions that I could do every day. It could be reading a chapter from a business book, reaching out to potential clients, or researching new ways to improve my marketing strategy. The key was consistency. I didn't wait for the perfect moment. I didn't wait until I felt 100% ready. I just started, and as I kept showing up every day, I started building momentum. Over time, those small daily actions turned into big results. This process also involves embracing discomfort. There are times when self-discipline will feel hard. There will be days when you don't feel like getting up early to work on your goals, or when you're tempted to procrastinate. But here's the secret. Discipline is about doing what needs to be done. Even when you don't feel like doing it, It's about pushing through the discomfort and doing it anyway. Think about the athletes who train for years, putting in countless hours of work. It's not easy, but they do it because they have a vision, and they know that their daily sacrifices will eventually pay off. The same principle applies to achieving your goals. The work may be hard at times, but the rewards are worth it. Here's another real-life example that illustrates this point. Think about Tim Ferriss, author of the best-selling book The 4-Hour Workweek. Tim has created a highly successful career by focusing on efficiency and productivity. But he didn't just magically find success. It took years of hard work and self-discipline. One of the things that Tim is known for is his strict morning routine. He's disciplined about working out, journaling, and setting clear goals every day. He doesn't waste time on distractions. His discipline isn't about restricting himself, but about structuring his day in a way that allows him to focus on the things that matter most. This is a great lesson for all of us. When you develop the discipline to focus on what's important and eliminate the distractions, you'll find that you have far more time and energy to devote to your goals. Now, I know it's easy to feel overwhelmed when you think about building self-discipline. The idea of having to structure your entire day or follow a strict routine can seem daunting, especially if you're just getting started. But remember, discipline is a practice. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start small. Maybe it's as simple as setting aside 30 minutes each morning to work on your goals, or cutting out distractions during certain parts of your day. The key is to start small and build gradually. With time, you'll find that discipline becomes second nature. Ultimately, self-discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about making a conscious decision to prioritize your goals over immediate gratification. It's about creating habits that serve your long-term vision, and doing the small things consistently that add up to big results over time. It's not about forcing yourself to work all the time. It's about learning how to say no to the things that don't serve you, and yes to the things that will move you closer to your dreams. Just like Oprah Winfrey, Tim Ferriss, and countless other successful individuals, you have the ability to harness the power of self-discipline. And once you do, you'll find that your life begins to shift. You'll feel more in control, more focused, and more confident. The distractions, excuses, and procrastination will lose their grip on you. You'll be free to build the life you've always dreamed of, one disciplined action at a time. 5. Overcoming procrastination through self-awareness. Procrastination is a tricky beast. It often disguises itself as something harmless, just a bit of delay, a small pause, but in reality, it's the silent killer of dreams. It creeps in, convincing us that it's okay to put things off just for one more day, that there's no rush, and that we have all the time in the world. But as you might know, one day quickly becomes 2, then a week, then a month, and before you realize it, you've let your dreams slip through your fingers without even trying. What's important to understand is that procrastination isn't just laziness or poor time management. It's often rooted in fear. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment. We procrastinate because, in some way, we're trying to protect ourselves from discomfort. We're trying to avoid the pain of possibly failing or feeling exposed when we put ourselves out there. But what we don't realize is that by not taking action, we're actually creating far greater pain, the pain of regret, the pain of never knowing what could have been, and the frustration of knowing we never even gave ourselves a chance to succeed. I can't count how many times in my own career I've struggled with procrastination. Whether it was launching a new project, making an important phone call, or even just sitting down to work on a task I knew would move me forward, I found myself constantly delaying and putting things off. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that procrastination wasn't just about being unproductive. It was a defense mechanism. My brain was telling me that by delaying, I was somehow avoiding discomfort. It was easier to distract myself with other things, checking emails, scrolling through social media, or finding busy work, than to face the discomfort of taking action. But the real breakthrough came when I asked myself one powerful question. What's worse, the fear of starting, or the regret of never trying? That was a turning point for me. I realized that by avoiding the discomfort of starting, I was allowing the fear of failure to control me. But that fear was far less painful than the regret of never even giving my dreams a chance. The moment I made that mental shift, I found the courage to take the first step, even if it wasn't perfect. And that's when things started to change. Procrastination feeds off of uncertainty, And it thrives when we're unclear about our goals or overwhelmed by the task at hand. But the real way to overcome procrastination is through self-awareness. When you become aware of your habits, your fears, and the underlying reasons for why you're avoiding action, you gain the power to break the cycle. It's like shining a light in a dark room. You can finally see what's been lurking in the shadows. And once you can see it, you can deal with it. One of the most effective ways to combat procrastination is to start by identifying the root cause. Are you afraid of failure? Are you worried that you won't be good enough or that others will judge you? Or are you perhaps afraid of succeeding, and what that might mean for your life? All of these fears can keep us stuck in a cycle of inaction. But when you confront them directly, when you acknowledge that they exist, you start to take away their power. For example, I remember when I first started speaking at public events. The idea of standing in front of a crowd, sharing my story, and offering advice was terrifying. I'd procrastinate for days, coming up with reasons not to do it. I'm not ready yet. I need more experience, maybe next year. But the truth was, I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid that people wouldn't like what I had to say. Or worse, they would find me unqualified to speak on the topic. That fear of judgment kept me stuck in the cycle of procrastination. Even though deep down, I knew that stepping up and sharing my message could help so many people. It wasn't until I started practicing self-awareness that I realized this fear wasn't unique to me. Everyone who's ever stepped into a new challenge, whether it's starting a business, making an investment, or pursuing a creative endeavor, has faced these same fears. And what I realized was that the discomfort of starting was temporary. But the regret of not starting lasted forever. The key was to acknowledge the fear, but not to let it control me. I had to decide that the fear of inaction, the fear of staying stuck, was greater than the fear of making mistakes along the way. Once I made that decision, I started to take action. Let me give you another real-life example. Richard Branson. Branson is known for his boldness and willingness to take risks. But even he has faced moments of doubt and hesitation. He's publicly shared how he battled procrastination early in his career, especially when it came to launching Virgin Airlines. He had the idea, the resources, and the team, but he was terrified of failing. His fear almost kept him from taking action. But eventually, he realized that the fear of never trying was far worse than any failure he might experience. And so, he took the leap, and as we know, Virgin Airlines became one of the most successful brands in the world. The same principle applies to your own life. You might be delaying your next move, your next investment, or your next big decision because of fear. But that fear is normal. Everyone feels it. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck is how they choose to respond to it. Those who succeed don't let fear stop them. They acknowledge it, understand it, and then take action despite it. Here's the thing. Procrastination isn't a sign of weakness. It's a signal that something needs to change. It's a sign that you're not fully aligned with your goals or that you're letting fear hold you back. The moment you recognize this, you can begin to take control. Self-awareness is the key. Ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? What's the worst that could happen? When you get clear on these answers, you can create a plan of action that moves you forward despite your fears. The more you practice taking action, the easier it becomes. You'll realize that the discomfort of starting is always temporary, and the momentum you build along the way will carry you through the tough times. The fear will never completely go away, but your ability to act in spite of it will grow stronger with every decision you make. And that's when you start to see real results. So, remember, procrastination is a defense mechanism, but it doesn't have to control you. By becoming self-aware, confronting your fears, and making the decision to act, you'll find that the barriers you placed in your own way are much smaller than they appear. The power to overcome procrastination is within you. You just have to choose to step forward and take action. 6. Reframing failure as a stepping stone. Failure is often viewed as something to avoid, something that signifies defeat or a lack of ability. However, in reality, failure is a natural part of the journey to success. It's not a permanent state, but an event, a moment in time that can offer invaluable lessons. Every time you fail, you are presented with an opportunity to grow stronger, to learn, and to recalibrate. The question is, will you let failure define you, or will you choose to let it refine you? One of the biggest shifts I've had to make in my mindset, and one that I encourage everyone to adopt, is the idea that failure is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. In fact, failure is the fertile soil from which success grows. It's not the end of the road but the beginning of an even greater understanding of what works, what doesn't, and what needs to be adjusted. I've experienced my fair share of failures. There were times when I invested in projects that didn't work out, or launched initiatives that failed to gain traction. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, I failed, so I'm a failure. But that's the lie we tell ourselves. Failure isn't about who you are, it's about what happened in that moment. It's about the choices you made and what you can learn from them to do better next time. This is a key principle that separates successful people from those who remain stuck. The most successful entrepreneurs, leaders, and individuals in history have all faced failure. But what set them apart was their mindset. They didn't view failure as a sign that they weren't good enough, they saw it as a lesson. A stepping stone, a way to improve and iterate on their approach. Take, for example, Thomas Edison, a man whose name is synonymous with innovation. Edison, when asked about his countless failed attempts to invent the light bulb, famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Think about that for a second. Edison didn't see his failures as a reason to quit. He saw each failure as a step closer to his goal. Each time something didn't work, he learned something new, he adapted, and he kept moving forward. In fact, Edison's ability to reframe failure was one of the key reasons why he ultimately succeeded. Instead of focusing on the setbacks, he focused on what each failure taught him. He knew that failure wasn't the end, it was a necessary part of the process. The light bulb didn't just appear out of nowhere, it was the result of thousands of attempts, each one inching him closer to success. The same mindset is crucial for anyone on the path to wealth and success. The road is not linear. There will be bumps, obstacles, and many moments where things don't go as planned. However, if you can train yourself to view each failure as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to improve, you'll be unstoppable. One of the biggest fears people have is the fear of looking bad, of failing in front of others. I've felt that too. It's intimidating to put yourself out there, knowing there's a chance you could fail and others might see it. But here's the thing. The people who succeed aren't the ones who are afraid of failure, they're the ones who fail fast. Fail forward, and keep going. It's all part of the process. A few years ago, I was involved in a business venture that I was really excited about. I put in hours of work, money, and effort, but it didn't pan out. At the time, I felt devastated. It felt like a personal failure. And I wondered if I was cut out for success. But instead of giving up, I took a step back and asked myself, what did I learn from this? I realized that the failure wasn't the business failing. It was my lack of proper planning and my overestimation of certain aspects of the market. That failure led me to restructure my approach, refine my strategy, and apply more careful research and planning moving forward. The next business I launched was more successful because I took those lessons with me. Failure teaches resilience, and it helps build the mental toughness required to succeed in anything, especially in the world of entrepreneurship and wealth building. Without failure, there's no real growth. Without the bumps in the road, we wouldn't learn how to adapt, how to pivot, or how to become stronger. The more you fail and get back up, the more confidence you build, because you realize that failure doesn't have the power to stop you. It only gives you the information you need to go further. Think about it. If Edison had stopped after his first failed attempt, we might still be living in a world without electric light. If Walt Disney had given up after being fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination, we wouldn't have Disneyland or Disney movies today. Steve Jobs, after being ousted from the company he co-founded, didn't give up. He came back, stronger than ever, and revolutionized the world once again with Apple. All of these men faced enormous failures. But what they did differently was choose to reframe those failures. They saw them as part of the process, not as an indication that they weren't cut out for success. That's the mindset shift you need to make today. Don't fear failure. Embrace it. See it for what it truly is, a teacher, a guide, and a crucial part of your success journey. The people who are successful aren't those who never fail, they are the ones who fail. Learn from it, adapt, and keep going. So the next time you face a setback, a challenge, or a failure, don't throw in the towel. Don't give up on your dreams. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow stronger from this experience? That's how you turn failure into your greatest asset. Each failure brings you closer to your ultimate success. 7. Creating a culture of radical ownership. Taking radical ownership is not just a mindset, it's a transformative way of living. When you fully embrace the idea that everything in your life, your successes, failures, circumstances, and challenges, are the result of your choices, you unlock a power that is often hidden behind excuses and self-doubt. Ownership means you no longer blame anyone or anything for where you are. It means you accept that you are the architect of your future. One of the most profound realizations I've had in my journey toward success is that everything that happens in my life is my responsibility. This was a tough pill to swallow, especially when I started out. Like many of you, I had my own set of excuses. I blamed external factors like the economy, market conditions, my upbringing, or even the fact that I didn't have the right connections. But when I started looking at my life from a lens of radical ownership, everything began to change. I remember working with a client. Let's call him John. John was frustrated because he felt like the market conditions were against him. He had been trying to start a business for years, but every time the economy took a downturn, he felt like he had no control over his success. He often talked about how difficult it was to get started because of the circumstances around him. However, after several months of coaching, I asked him a simple question. What if the economy doesn't change? What if your situation never gets better? What will you do then? At first, he was taken aback. For the first time, he realized that he had been waiting for external circumstances to align in his favor instead of taking control of his own actions. He admitted that he had been waiting for the perfect conditions to start. But I encouraged him to start where he was with what he had, to take responsibility for his choices, and to stop waiting for the world to give him permission to succeed. This was the turning point. John shifted his mindset. He started researching his industry more deeply, took small but consistent steps to get his business off the ground. And slowly but surely, he built momentum. The change wasn't immediate, but his shift from making excuses to taking ownership opened up possibilities he hadn't seen before. The moment he took responsibility for his actions, he regained control of his future. This story is a perfect example of the power of ownership. It's about acknowledging that where you are today is a result of your decisions and actions. When you take responsibility for the good, the bad, and the ugly, you realize you're in the driver's seat of your own life. This is a liberating realization, but it requires courage and honesty with yourself. It's easy to fall into the trap of blaming external factors for our lack of progress. Whether it's the economy, our family background, our education, or the people around us, there are always reasons we can point to as to why things aren't working. But here's the truth. You have more control than you think. Radical ownership means you stop waiting for someone else to fix things for you. You stop making excuses and you start making decisions. I've seen this in my own life as well. Early on, I found myself in a situation where I wasn't where I wanted to be financially. I could have blamed the market, or the timing, or the fact that I didn't come from a wealthy background. But I realized something crucial. If I wanted to change my financial future, I had to take radical ownership of my situation. I started making different choices, investing in my education, finding mentors, working on my mindset, and slowly, my circumstances began to shift. It didn't happen overnight, but I was empowered because I stopped blaming external factors and started focusing on what I could control. One of the most powerful examples of radical ownership in action is Gary Vaynerchuk, the entrepreneur, author, and motivational speaker. Gary's story is all about taking ownership of his destiny. He came from a family of immigrants and didn't have a silver spoon in his mouth. But instead of feeling sorry for himself or blaming his background, he took full ownership of his journey. He worked tirelessly, built his family's wine business from the ground up, and then went on to create a massive social media empire. Gary's success didn't come from external circumstances being favorable. It came from his ability to embrace ownership of every decision he made and his relentless work ethic. When you take ownership, you stop seeing obstacles as roadblocks. Instead, you see them as challenges to overcome. You realize that every decision you make is a step toward creating the future you want. It's not about waiting for everything to be perfect. It's about understanding that your actions, big or small, are what ultimately shape your life. I've also worked with clients who've had similar breakthroughs. I remember coaching Sarah, a woman who had been stuck in a dead-end job for years, always complaining about her lack of opportunities. When we dug deeper, I realized that she had been giving away her power to her circumstances. She blamed her boss, her colleagues, the company's policies, and even her location for her dissatisfaction. But when I encouraged her to take full ownership of her career, to stop waiting for someone else to change her situation, she began to take proactive steps. She started learning new skills, networking, and seeking out opportunities outside of her comfort zone. Within a few months, she landed a much better position that she loved. The difference wasn't the circumstances, it was her shift in mindset and her decision to take responsibility for her own success. Radical ownership is about leading your own life. It's not about controlling every aspect of your reality, but it's about taking full responsibility for how you respond to everything that happens. When you adopt this mindset, you become empowered. You stop looking outside yourself for the reasons why you're stuck, and you start looking inward at what you can do differently. This shift in mindset is one of the most powerful tools for success in life and business. Ultimately, when you adopt a mindset of radical ownership, you open up a world of possibilities. You stop waiting for things to change and start taking the actions that will change your world. You become the architect of your future. And that, my friends, is the ultimate power. Conclusion. As we come to the end of this video, I know some of you are probably thinking, where do I start? And that's a great question. The truth is, the journey to eliminating excuses and embracing action starts with one decision. It starts with you, right here, right now. No more waiting for the perfect time or the ideal circumstances. The moment you decide that you're ready to take full ownership of your life and act on your dreams, that's the moment everything changes. But let me be clear, this isn't a one-time decision. It's a mindset shift, one that you must carry with you every single day. The path to success is built on consistent action, and that action is driven by a commitment to radical ownership. When you choose to stop making excuses and begin taking full responsibility for where you are in life, you unlock a power within you that is limitless. You stop waiting for permission. You stop looking for reasons to delay. And instead, you take bold steps toward creating the life you've always dreamed of. Now, let's quickly recap the key takeaways from today's lesson, because it's important to remember the principles we've discussed and how they can change your life. First, excuses are self-imposed barriers. They're not reality, they're just stories we tell ourselves to justify inaction. Once you realize that, you immediately take back control of your destiny. You are the one in the driver's seat. Second, own your decisions, whether they lead to success or failure. It doesn't matter. You are the one who shapes your future. Taking responsibility for your actions is the only way to unlock your true potential. And let me tell you, the more you take ownership of your choices, the more you empower yourself to create the life you want. Third, action creates momentum. Every step you take, no matter how small, propels you closer to your goals. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment, it's about starting where you are. With what you have, small actions, done consistently, build the momentum that drives you forward. Action is the key to turning your dreams into reality. Next, failure is a lesson, not a defeat. Too many people fear failure, but successful individuals see failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. Thomas Edison didn't fail 10,000 times. He just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. And you can do the same. Every setback is an opportunity to adjust, to learn, and to come back stronger. Another key point is discipline and focus. Success isn't about following rigid rules. It's about aligning your daily habits with your big vision. Focus your energy on the actions that will take you closer to your goals. And stay consistent. Discipline isn't about restriction, it's about creating a structure that supports your vision for the future. And when you do that, you can achieve anything you set your mind to. Finally, radical ownership unlocks your true power. Stop blaming external factors, whether it's the economy, the market, or your upbringing. Take full responsibility for your outcomes. When you do that, you tap into an immense source of power that will drive you to create the life you deserve. Remember, you are the architect of your future. Now, here's the most important part of all. It's time to act. This video, this information, it's just the beginning. It's your turn to take these lessons and put them into practice. No more excuses. No more waiting. It's time to take control and start building the life you deserve. So, What's the first step for you? Maybe it's setting a clear goal. Maybe it's taking that first action. However small it may seem. Whatever it is, I want you to make a decision right now that you're going to take action today. Because every decision you make is a step toward the life you want to create. Before we wrap up, I want to thank you for staying with me through this entire video. I know time is precious, and I appreciate you taking the time to invest in your future. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Limitless Success TV. Let's build a community of action takers, where we support each other and hold each other accountable. Together, we can eliminate excuses, embrace ownership, and unlock our limitless potential. Remember, success starts with one decision. Make that decision today. The time is now. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.